What's going on, everybody? This is Lauren. We're back here with the TMF Podcast and Planet Podcast. We're doing Tough Motherfucker today. We have a special guest joining us. If you do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the links in the description because it does have everything about our guest as well. We are joined today with Walt Mckinley, who is the author of Monsters in My House. And Walt has an incredible story that really fits the TMF brand to a T, in my opinion. It really resonates with me, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people, even if your story isn't as extreme as what Walt is going to tell us about today. Everyone has a tough motherfucker inside of us. That is the basis of what this entire platform is about. And so I'm excited to talk to him. I look forward to it. And every guest that I have, I've taken something away that has really affected my life. So I hope that anyone listening to this can also take something away. So without further ado, Walt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Man, brother, thanks for having me on the TMF podcast. I love it. Being a 20-year veteran, I love that tough motherfucker mentality. And you're right, everybody's got a story. And so I appreciate you having me on here to tell mine. And so I think really to understand kind of where I've been, where I came from, you need to have that framework of the story. So I'll give you guys a little bit of that. So I moved 14 times in the first 16 years of my life. And I was torturously and sadistically abused by every single adult that I came into contact with. My father, my stepmother, my stepfather, my mother, a lot of neglect there. She never hit me, but a lot of neglect and emotional abuse. And then even foster parents, because we were removed from the home, put in foster care because of the abuse that was happening in different occasions. And then we were abused by foster parents. This is 30 plus years ago. And so, I think about where I started and this life journey that I've been on. And when you talk about being a tough motherfucker, when you talk about TMF and you talk about being able to overcome life's greatest challenges, that's really what I've done. I was chased through hell by the devil, and I've came out the other side to live just in the light, and live abundantly and live this happy life, even though I started from some of the worst things life had to offer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is amazing. And that is, everyone loves a success story, but like I say, everyone loves even more than that as someone who was down and was overcoming that. And overcoming challenges in life isn't about the worst of the worst. I think for a lot of people, it's just the day-to-day challenge.
Mhm.
If you can get past that and sometimes you just can't see the other side. And it helps to listen to somebody and talk to somebody that it's like, man, look, 10 years ago or 8 years ago or 2 months ago, you would not believe what had happened to me. And here I
Mhm.
am, and not all days were great. And we oftentimes, I think, see the end result. That's all we end up seeing, right? We see the Kevin Hart now. We see the Dwayne Johnson now. We don't see Dwayne Johnson when he had $7 in his pocket. We don't see that person. We don't see the David Goggins when he was, 290 pounds and living in a shithole place. We see him
Yeah.
now. It's important to talk about these experiences because there's nothing special about these people, right? The only thing that I feel like is different is just change the mindset that you had
Mhm.
and moved on. So tell us some about what the book is and what your story is and just I mean it's your show today, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Look, I wrote the book at the probing of my wife for about the last decade, to really show people your history doesn't define your legacy, and where you started doesn't have to be where you're finished. And I think, you and I were talking about this before we kicked this off. Whether you've been through trauma 5 years or 5 minutes or 15 years is irrelevant. Like, you have to turn and face that trauma and that situation that caused you to spiral, that caused some emotions, that causes people to live in quiet desperation as an adult and manifest itself negatively, in somebody's life. And so, I really narrate this tale in my story about this little boy who was literally, no joke. In the cover of the book, you can see a little bit of it on the top of this. The cover of the book is my view as a little boy being thrown in the basement by my stepfather as punishment in the dark for up to 10, 12 hours at a time. And he would even throw a Halloween mask down there with me. I was terrified of at 7 and 8 years old. And you can see in the bricks on the cover of the book, you can see this mask, and it's a werewolf mask. And it's like, how do you go from that and literally being on the brink of losing your sanity so many times in life, and then live this happy adult life? And the reality is what I learned in this process is there's some keys to living an extraordinary life, and that's kind of what I share with people. But I didn't just learn them. I didn't just all of a sudden, pow, one day I said, I'm going to make a decision to change and everything's glorious and everything's great. There's a lot of time. And I think, all this abuse at 16, my aunt took me into her home. It was the first person in my entire life that just loved me. She was my champion. I joke, a woman made me the man I am today, because if you met her, you'd be like, that is totally the female version of you.
Right.
And she's tough. And she loved me when I didn't even know what love was, what love felt like, what a hug would even feel like at that point. And, but even through that, for the next 3 years that I lived with her until I was 19 and I went in the Navy, I didn't, I still had a lot of tumultuousness. I still had a lot of pain. I still had a lot of suffering. I lived in this pit of despair that we all tend to live in when we haven't turned and faced our trauma. That pit of that shame, that despair, that anger, that lashing out, that getting frustrated, feeling that you need to retaliate for anything, taking things personally. Like, I lived in that space for so long. And what I found, one of the biggest things that catapulted this healing journey, and it didn't start overnight, was the ability to slowly speak my truth. Right. And it's crazy because, especially as men are 3.1 times more likely to commit suicide than women, because we wear this capital R on our chest for resiliency, because we're programmed as youth to not cry, don't act like a girl, don't even talk about how you feel. So we hold this shit inside of us and we don't ever talk about it. And I was doing that, all this pain, all this suffering. And, I got to the point where we almost robbed a store, and I should be in prison or dead. But by the grace of God, I'm not. And we got to this point on a Wednesday. We're going to rob this Circle K convenience store. We had it cased out. I knew when the one old dude was working. We were going to go between 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning. And I talk about this story in the book too. 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning, because there was least amount of traffic in there. We knew we wouldn't hurt them.
Right.
But we were still going to go in there. We had ski masks. We had guns. Like, it was going down. Multiple escape routes. And my buddy's mother got sick the Monday before, 2 days before we were going to go in and rob this store. My buddy's mother got sick. And I'm going to tell you, she is still alive today. They thought she was going to die, but she's still alive today. And that's how I know, for me, is by the grace of God, she got sick that way, because he left to go 5 hours to Tucson from Yuma, Arizona, where I grew up. And during that next couple of days, I didn't call girls over how I was always doing, because for me, I didn't do drugs, but girls were my drug. Drinking was my choice, right? And I didn't start partying. I just had a couple of days to sit in my house and think, holy shit, we're really about to rob the store. What am I doing? This isn't where I want my life to go. And I went and talked to my grandmother, and I talked to her a little bit about how I was feeling, what was happening. And she said, you need to go into the military. You just need to get out of here. It's an option for you. And so I had a decision to make. And I think all these things we do are decisions, right?
Right.
All these pieces of the puzzle that we have and we heal from is a decision. Am I going to do something different than what I've done so that I can get a different result? And so that's what I did in that moment. And within 2 weeks of that talk with my grandmother, I was in the Navy.
Oh, wow.
And in boot camp, it was like, I knew if I just didn't get the hell out of there, the likelihood of me changing my mind was going to be pretty high.
Right.
And I knew if I didn't do something different, I was going to be in prison or maybe dead. Right? Who knows what would have happened if we would have robbed it and got caught by the police or whatever.
Yeah, like, what was going through your mind? Like what was the outcome going to be? Like, are we going to go in there? Because obviously you're robbing a little gas station. You're not coming out with like $500,000,
Right.
you know? Like, what was the end game on that one? I don't know. The wild
Well,
thing.
I just didn't give a shit.
Right. It's
You
just
don't care.
desperation, and it's just like, all right, well, what's going to happen, you know? And I honestly, there's probably so many people that have been in a position like that are just like, you know what, man, I need $500 fucking dollars. Who's gonna catch me? You know, like what? And that's it. It comes out of just a sheer desperation, I think, and the fact that you might not have somebody around you that you feel like you can talk to about it or ask for help, or you're embarrassed about asking for help, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. It's a wild thing to think like you were right there on the edge.
Hmm.
And
And it
that,
wasn't even the money, bro, right? Like we didn't need the money. I worked at Pepsi. I was a merchandiser. I stacked displays
right?
and
Yeah, I did.
whatnot.
I did some
So it
merchandising
wasn't
back
even
in the day.
I just didn't care. I didn't even care about life at that point. It was like the devil and the angel on each shoulder. I
Yeah,
knew I wanted to be a good person. I didn't know how, but the pain and the embarrassment and the shame and all the things I held on to was my driving force. And so, I think back now, at 45 years old, retired from the Navy, went into corporate, had a great career, how much different my life could have been. And what I found through my journey in the Navy, I'll never forget. I talk about this in the book too. Flying on the plane to boot camp, and I thought to myself, "Do you know what? This is my chance. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows what I've been through. This is my chance to live the life I wanted to create. I don't have to see the apartments that I got beat in. I don't have to see
right,
the different places that I got smacked around and hit with cast iron skillets and beat with a belt. I don't have to see those anymore. It's not the reminder. So that I can literally just go out and live this amazing life that I want, that I see in this vision in my head. But I needed to start to speak part of my truth and speak my story. And it's like I started to share just a little bit at first. And I shared that piece. And I thought, oh, that felt good to get that out. And then I shared another piece, and I shared another piece. And ultimately, what happened over the course of probably really about a decade is I shared all these little things that allowed me to go to the next thing. And it got to these deepest, darkest recesses of my soul, like the places where you keep that shit locked up, that you
right.
throw away the key for yourself, much less give the key to somebody else. And I found that key and I unlocked that. When I took that trauma out, I was able to replace that trauma that I was hanging on to with joy, with love. And I just started moving around the world differently. Thank God, because I met my wife and we've been married 22 years now. But it all started with having the courage to say, I can't hang on to this pain any longer. I can't hang on to the shame any longer. I need to let this out somehow. And finding that counselor, therapist, if that's what it is, a coach. For me, it was some of my closest family members, some of my closest friends, and just slowly like finding myself again.
Right. Wow. I mean, I could see how the military would be a pretty big turning point because that's a family. That's a family that
Mhm.
and honestly, I, I look at it two ways. Like someone who went through that much trauma as a child, going into boot camp, not easy. They're not nice. You're gonna get there and you're like, fuck, what am I doing here? Why are
Uh-huh.
you yelling at me? I don't want to do this. But the camaraderie that you have in the armed forces is a family and a brotherhood that lasts for a
Mhm.
lifetime, for most people. And I could see where the end game of that and going through it would be just a life changing, altering moment as well. And being able to, have people around you that, look, man, if you're going to go out there and die together, sharing a story, that's the least of your concerns. You can do that with those people without judgment. You're not going to go
Mhm.
through hell with somebody and be like, well, by the way, I'd like to tell you something that happened to me. And they're going to be like, not listening to that shit. That's
Right.
not what they're there for. I could see
Mhm.
how that would definitely make a huge difference in your life, for sure.
It's funny because you talked about boot camp because they yell at you. And I remember driving through the gates at Great Lakes, right? And the big black gates open up and you're driving in and they're on your ass as soon as you get
Right.
off the bus. And I'll never forget I got off the bus and this guy, the recruit drill instructor, he's yelling, he's like spitting in my face and he's yelling at me. And I was triggered. And I thought, and I put this part in the book too. Literally, I'm like, who the fuck are you talking? Like, man, I will smack you up. Like that's what I thought.
Right.
Like you don't know me, and I couldn't respond. I was reacting with the emotion that I had pent up because
Yeah.
anytime a man got in my face, it was like I wanted to hurt you. And he pushes me forward because everybody's running, and um, and then I can see them coming down the line to yell at the next person. So in that moment, I had to say, okay, this is just part of the game. They're militarizing me. I can't take this personal. I'm gonna be here for 2 months for my staycation, and I just need to be ready for this. And so it gave me a minute to just check my emotion and respond, and do what I was told in those moments versus reacting with anger and visceral,
Yeah.
that reaction. And then you go through boot camp, and you're with these people. For me, I think there's 80 people at the time, and you're in open bay barracks. You're showering together. There's no, back in the day, there was no stalls on the toilets. You got 5 minutes. You're sharing a freaking toilet to pee in with, somebody standing right next to you. Like, there's no hiding from anything.
Right.
And you really do build a brother and a sisterhood now, right, with people during this time frame. And what I found was I wasn't alone in the things that I went through. And I think that's a big piece for everybody listening out there is you're not alone. And you said it at the beginning. There's so many people who've been through the type of things that you've been through that can understand, that can empathize, that can help you through it even. And you're not alone. And I think that's so huge, especially in the veteran community where suicide's so prevalent, is we're taught not to share, right? We're taught to be tough. And then by doing that, we put ourselves in a space where we feel alone. And so
Right.
I love this podcast for this because we're showing people, two men on here, right? Two manly men on here talking about things that they've been through in a way that opens up a dialogue and a conversation.
Yeah.
And in those moments where you're building that bond with people in boot camp, you realize you're not alone, and you realize other people are struggling with their own life experiences at the same time. And it builds a bond that truly is unbreakable, like nothing else in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And it is something that it's just hard for people to talk about. I've experienced not trauma like obviously on your level. And for me, it was, recently, like, within this year has been very tough on me. And I went through
Mhm.
something with my old business that just it turned my life upside down. I had two customers that literally turned my life upside down overnight.
Mm.
And my response to it, my response to things like for me, when you're, especially if you're a single parent and you've got all these responsibilities and all of these things, being a small business owner even more so, it all the weight. Sometimes I would just wake up and all of that comes flooding through my brain. Everything,
Mm.
all the things I have to do, all the people that are relying on me, all the bills, all the this and that, and it's just it's so much. And back in September, I had a panic attack, and I've never experienced that in my life. And my best friend was there with me, and we had a relationship, and she means the world to me, and she didn't know what to do. And I'm like, there's all I need you to do is just be here. That's it. And just let me get through
Mhm.
this. Let me think about it. Let me understand what's happening. And I've never been a person that really even thought about suicide, but I've had moments this year that I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I just want to just reset. I just want to start over. Like, and then you think, the path to that is you think about, what would tomorrow be like for my kids? If I was
Yeah.
gone today, what would tomorrow be like for them? What would it be like for the people around me? And like, that's a selfish thing to do, to
Mhm.
just check out, but people do it. And they don't, I don't know, maybe they think about it, maybe they don't, maybe they're just over it, but it's hard. And if you don't talk about it with somebody, and for me, I reached out to everybody in my small circles of people. Made its way to my room to clean it. But I reached out to, the smallest people around me, and I just said thank you for being in my life. Like,
Mm.
I'm not okay, and thank you for being here. And that's it. Like, you
That's
just let
awesome.
them know. And I just let them know, like, I'm not okay. I don't know what's gonna be the outcome of it, what's gonna fix it. And some of them were worried to the extreme side of it, and it was just like, what can I do to help? And like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
need you to know. And I think there's a lot of people out there who won't do that. They will not reach out to anybody for fear of judgment. Mostly, that I think that's the number one thing. It's judgment.
Yes.
Like, oh,
Hmm.
they're going to judge me and think that I'm, whatever it is. I'm not, I'm pathetic. I'm a loser. I sucked. I failed at life, or whatever it
Hmm.
is. And one thing that has resonated with me for years is something that Gary Vaynerchuk says all the time, which is stop giving a fuck about what other people think.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Does not matter at all. You get one life. You got to live it. And it's okay as men to reach out and say, look, I need help, man. Like, fuck. At
Yes,
some
bro.
point. whatever it
Yes.
is. I need to get out of
Like this
this
whole
zone.
nobody cares, work harder shit that we hear is fucking bullshit, bro.
It
I
is.
loathe it. Because, and by the way, as men, stop comparing to your friends. Stop talking about things all the time. Like there's time and a place for that. And got the promo, got the car, check this
Right.
motorcycle out, whatever it is. But it's like when you talk to your friend and you say, "How you doing?" and they're like, "I'm fine." They're not fine. Like dig a little deeper as a true friend and get them to open up where they're not suffering in silence and living in quiet desperation because of it. You know what I love was what you just said. I think what you said is so important for your journey in the last year. I had a nervous breakdown in corporate America 10 months ago, which is why I left it to write this book and speak about mental health and try to remove this stigma of trauma. Just like you, it was like COVID happened. For me, my work tripled. My boss I had a promo. I ran a site in the Philippines and I ran a site in Tempe for Fortune 3. And my boss got promoted. She was pretty much non-existent. The director had left. So I'm doing literally 3 executive level roles in my company by myself. 12 to 14-hour days, grinding, feeling like I'm just trying to be everything to everybody and be nothing for myself in that moment. And it was like my mental health just atrophied and atrophied and atrophied and atrophied. And I get to this point where I'm being snippy with my wife. Just I was being an asshole is really what it was. It's like 5:30. I had been working all day long, and I'm thinking to myself, like I'm just hungry and I'm hangry. And she's like, "What do you want to like? What do you want for dinner?" And I'm like, all I do is make decisions all day. Like I don't even just put something in front of me." And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, that's not really fair. Like, what's wrong with you?" And I look at her and in that moment, I had a choice. Am I going to be vulnerable and share or not? And I had been just Captain Resilient the whole time. It's like a superpower that I have for my trauma, but it's also a weakness if I'm not careful with it, right? So I said, "Babe, I'm not even physically or mentally tired anymore. I'm tired in the depths of my soul of who I am as a human being. I just can't even begin to tell you how tired." And I started welling up. And in that moment, she just hugged me. That's it, right? It's like when you say people just hold space for somebody that's in that space. You don't have to fix it.
Right.
Just hold space for them.
Just got to be there, man.
2 days later, I'm talking to my peer on this laptop I'm on right now. So we hired a director. I'm onboarding her, trying to get her up to speed, right? And this is like our 5th or 6th conversation we've had. No pressure, nothing. And all of a sudden I could feel my back, middle of my back get super tight. I could feel it coming over me like a wave. And my neck starts pulsating and my veins in my head are sticking out and I start turning red. And I'm like, holy shit, my heart's beating. I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. Oh my gosh. And so I go in the bathroom. I'm like, I got to go. Slam the laptop shut. I go in the bathroom, take 2 aspirin. And I tell my wife, I was like, I might be having a heart attack. Never had anxiety or a panic attack or burnout or whatever you want to call it before this moment in my life once. And we go to the hospital, go to the VA, and because it's right around the corner. And I go in, I was like, I'm having a lot of chest pain. And it's not funny, but it's funny to me now because they're like, you know, they get on the little microphone thingy and people descended, like came out of all these doors, like descended on me, got me on a gurney, got me hooked up. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? It's like my brain snapped in that moment. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? And I'll never forget this guy who's the head nurse there. He used to run triage centers in Phoenix, a bunch of them. He goes, "Hey man, like I was a combat medic. I've been through a lot of stuff. What you're describing is a panic attack. And I never had one until I ran all these trauma centers. The amount of responsibility you have is unsustainable. And you've been doing it almost 18 months. You know, with you know, my scope and span of control was ridiculous because now there's literally 3 people doing what I was doing by myself at this company." And he goes, "There's a psychiatric psychology place downstairs, right? Like I would see them on your way out. I don't know if that's it for sure, but I know everything you're describing I went through myself." And it was a really cool moment from one man to another for him to lean in and he's just telling just me, making sure nobody else can hear it. I went down there, saw a psychologist for a couple months and decided about a month in, literally my brain still wasn't working. It was like I couldn't see clear, you know, and it took me about 2 months to get back to normal. And I said, "You know what?" My wife said, "All these things we have, all these crazy things, if you die, I'm selling it all and I'm moving back close to my parents in North Carolina. I want you, not the things. I've been
Right.
begging you to write your book. You've been wanting to be a speaker for 2 decades. Let's just go for it. Let's just do it. And I had a choice to make. Am I going to go back and try to do what I've always done, the stay in the box, the safe space that society tells us we need to be in? Because if you were looking in the box, you were like, this dude is so successful. And I
Right.
was miserable. There's people that are successful and miserable out there
Yeah.
because they're not pouring back into themselves. And I quit corporate America and bro, #1 bestseller in 10 months, um, doing speaking events all over the world now. And that's really just kicking off schools. The VA's buying a bunch of my books. I just found that out today in Virginia. And so it's like all these amazing things are happening. We're removing the stigma of trauma. And I'm happier than I've been in my life because I chose myself first in that moment now. And now I get to come on TMF. I'm doing all these amazing things.
Right.
And it's just, I'm living literally the best, most happy life I've ever had in 45 years on this earth.
And that's something that people need to understand. I literally had this conversation 2 days ago with I said the person that means the absolute world to me, and we're going through a time now where it's it for me, I changed my entire life. Like I lived that. You were in corporate America. I was a white collar, blue collar dude, man. I owned a motorcycle shop and I worked 18-hour plus days most of the time. The turning point for me in that, and I was the same way. I was snippy. Look, when you are self-employed and you have all this you have employees, you've got people there, you've got customers that are on your ass, and now with social media, there's a direct connection to you and the customer. And I had, Facebook Messenger and Business Messenger, and people would, there's no respect for your life. It was like
Mm-hmm.
11 p.m. Hey, where's my blank, blah, blah, blah. You're like, dude, you can't I told my wife this, you cannot unsee that message. You can ignore it.
Yes.
You can go like this. Fuck. You read it, and now it's all your thing. You don't want to reply because you're like, dude, I am going to light this dude up right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you cannot just go to bed. You're
Mm-hmm.
watching a show, you're relaxed, you're like, ah man, this is nice. And then you're like, fuck this guy. And then
Yeah.
it just sends you whirling. And I lived that life for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember and I've talked about it before. I remember the turning point for me. And it was I was in my shop and I'd work so much. I would get there at 7 a.m. I'd leave at maybe
Mm-hmm.
8. Sometimes I just go home, have dinner, go back because I'm trying to get stuff. And keep in mind, I'm just making custom parts for motorcycles. This is not life-saving, altering things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for bikers, it was like, I got to ride my bike tomorrow to bike night. I got to go. And I'm like, bro, there's going to be another bike night. And if there's not, if the world ends, this is the least of my fucking problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm over there just giving up my life for this. And I remember I remember it vividly. I was standing in my shop and I was watching the news, and it was that hurricane that went through South Texas, and Texas was flooded. And you're like, Houston's
Mm-hmm.
underwater. Why? Houston's fucking hot. There's no water in Houston. Why is Houston flooded?
Yeah.
And you're watching these people struggling. And then the next day it went through South Florida and people on their roofs. And I'm just looking at this going, whatever this person is calling me about right now is so not important. It's not even funny. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching people on right now happening whose lives are forever different right
Yeah.
now. And I'm like, none of this matters. None of what I'm doing matters. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna spend time with my kids. And I realized that I didn't even know them. Like I see them every day for an hour or whatever, but I don't know them. These kids 6 years old. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Why don't I know my kids? And I gave up so much of my life for other people in a way that didn't even matter. It doesn't even make a
Mm-hmm.
fucking difference. And
Mm-hmm.
I was over it. And I was mad. I was resentful for doing that. And it cost me my marriage. I know that. And I look back and to make the change, and I started moving forward to something else. I want to do something else. I want to do something different. And I changed. I decided in October I was closing the shop. I knew I was going to exit the business anyway, and it did not go smoothly.
Yeah.
I was in a bunch of debt. I have all these other issues to deal with, and I decided this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change everything at 38 years old at the time, 39 now, but 38, I'm going to change it. And from the outside looking in, people are going to say, well, you're not doing great, man. You're struggling financially. You've got all these, there's always some kind of issue. You're just hustling constantly. And I do not give up. I will work from all day on it. I will not give up. Persevere. And if today, man, I could have 10, 100 failures today. And when I go to bed, I wake up tomorrow going, it's a new day. Today will be the day that changes my life. Every day that you wake up, you can do that. And there's people out there that don't understand that. They do not understand. Like, you're like, wow, yeah, I had stuff. And I used to tell my ex-wife, I worked a lot. And then when I stopped doing that, she started working more and became career oriented. And I told her, I said, we have pictures of things that we've done on the mantle. You've got a house, the fence, the dog. They're all trophies. When you really look at it, you just go, I achieved, I got these trophies. But what I don't have is a life. Like, we're not living life. We don't do things. We're not happy. And I would rather give up all that just to be happy. Maybe you're going to struggle, but every day I wake up and I'm like, I get to do something that I really enjoy doing. And maybe I don't get paid a dime for doing it. And maybe I'm going to be like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill or rent or whatever, but fuck, am I not I'm not selling my life away.
Yes.
And you have to make that change. And it's hard. It's so hard, but you can change it. And it's a mindset issue. And for me, it's a lot of times it's changing your environment. When you get into a place where you're unhappy, you're depressed, depression is huge. And I never really faced it that much until the last year and a half. And it was like, what do I do? All right, I put my earbuds in. I listen to the same clips of Goggins telling you got to get the fuck up. You got to go.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, just get up and go to work. And okay, so I just get out of bed and just walk out the door. Step one, walk outside. Step two, get in the car, drive somewhere. Get the fuck out of there,
Yeah.
And that for me, that's huge. It works. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but if you're not happy with where you're at that exact moment, move. Just get up and move out the way. If it's your job, just be like, hey, I gotta go outside. I gotta get away from this place.
Right.
And you can do that. It's not easy. It's hard.
Yes.
So hard. But the outcome
it is just a
better.
Decision.
It is.
It's just a decision you make.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, watch what you absorb. And you talked about it. You listen to Goggins and Rogan. Love those guys. And I think so many people are caught up in the news, and there's this anti-vax versus vax and Democrat versus Republican. And the news is meant to divide people. And, what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yeah.
So like, that's what they're doing. But so many people are keyboard warriors on Facebook, and they're trying to change everybody's mind. And, nobody ever changes anybody's mind. All you do is atrophy your own mental health when you're doing that. Like, put things into your brain, into your soul that you could feel, that like make you want to get up and move, and tune the rest of the stuff out. I spent 20 years as an intelligence officer, or I should say 10 of them as an intelligence officer. And I spent 17 of my 20-year career in intelligence. So I read every day, watch the news every day. And it's amazing as I've gotten away from doing that. And I listen to podcasts. I read more inspirational type stuff, how my own mental health stays high. And that doesn't mean I don't get knocked on my ass here and there, right? My own mental health stays high. And then doing what aligns with your purpose. Like you said, you close a shop. It was kind of a shit show. You might not be making the money you want to make yet, but you get up and you're happy and you go for it. And I'm working a lot, but I love it because it's purposeful. It's meaningful. It aligns with what I feel like my life's purpose is now. And so it's like, it doesn't ever feel like work. And people would always say that stuff on podcasts. And I'm like, bullshit. Like, must be nice. Must be nice. I'm glad you can afford to do all of that. You know what? All of us can. You're making it, right? I left 80% of my income on the table. I haven't got paid since September. I'm making it. Now I'm generating income doing what's within my purpose and passion. And you don't have to leave your job right away to do it, but you can do something different. If you're miserable at your job, find another damn job. There's so many things that you can do. And I want to give you this example real quick. My daughters. So we did my book launch 2 Fridays ago. We had about 120, 125 people there. It was phenomenal. Like I felt so loved in that moment. And my wife did a great job setting it up. So surprisingly, my 17-year-old and 15-year-old daughters get up on stage and talk. And I think as men, like one, we need to break the generational cycle of abuse, but we also need to fight to be the hero of our families. And you talked about, you looked at your son and you're like, God, I'm just trying to figure this out now because I've been so focused on work. Then both of my daughters mentioned corporate America. And my 15-year-old said, I would get up in the morning to go to school and you would be working. I would come home from school and you would be working until dinner. And I saw you stressed out and just how proud they were that I stepped. It makes me emotional as a dad, really.
Yeah.
It does. How proud they were that I stepped into my um, purpose in life. But what am I showing them that they should do? I'm
Right.
showing them to step into their purpose in life and what makes them happy at a young age. And I'm showing them that it's okay to do that. That's what leaving a legacy is about. It's not the boat, it's not the big house, it's not you bought them an iPad or an iPhone or the shit. It's the experiences you create because you allow yourself to show up because you're doing things that fill you up first. So, bro, like, man, we could just probably literally talk for 10 hours straight about this
Yeah.
because I'm so passionate about that.
Yeah, me too. And I try to even today, like it's not about all of that, none of that stuff, Matt. The house, it's nice to live in a nice
Yeah.
house, but you live there by yourself, have nobody, and tell me how amazing life is. Life is not
Hmm.
about the things that you collect. Life is about the people that you spend it with. And if you have a family and you're working 16-hour days and you don't get to see them, that is a miserable life. That is not worth, it's not a life worth living. And
Hmm.
it is, when they say do something you love doing, and there's something to that. When I got divorced, I was not happy. I wasn't happy. It's not that I missed her, the wife. I knew I was letting my kids down. I was upset that I wasn't going to see my kids as much as, I want to see them every day. And I moved into a house that's just me. And my escape to the feeling that I had was I got up every day and I went to the gym. And I listened, no bullshit, listened to David Goggins on repeat every time I went in there, the same two clips or the Rogan clip every time. And I listened to it the entire time I'm in the gym. That's it. And then it would get me through it because I just hear it. It was just in
Yeah.
my brain. And then I did stand-up comedy. I went to open mics. And
That's awesome.
I, I like I like just being around the people,
Yeah.
and you get up and you would tell a joke or whatever, a story, and maybe the people would laugh, maybe they won't, didn't really matter, and you would just be around people, and the energy and
Hmm.
the vibe that you got was good. I didn't want at the end of the day, I did not want to go home
Yeah.
because home was not happy. It was not a happy place for me. And it took a
Hmm.
while for me to be okay with just somewhat being at home. And all the people who say you just got to be okay and you got to be happy alone. People don't make you happy. That is not true. Humans are not built to be alone. We don't want to be alone. And it's
Yeah.
not to say that you need someone in your life to make you happy, but life is worth living when they're around. Find
Yep.
someone that you can spend life with and you're not arguing, man. It's better, and I'm going through this right now, like with
Yeah.
like I said, a person that means the world to me. And we spent the last couple months working from homes, across from each other, and we did everything together, and it was great. And now we're in a position where, she's having pressure from everyone in her life to go, well, look, he's older and look what he's not they look at the outside and go, he doesn't have a
Judgment.
stable job. His how I have to move. I have to move in 2 weeks. I honestly, until yesterday, did not have a place to go. And
Hmm.
my lease was up. The homeowners are selling the house, and I've never been in a position where I couldn't find a place to live. But
Yeah.
the housing market's crazy. Rent is high as fuck, and
Yeah.
I'm self-employed. I make money, but I don't show a fundamental way of making, like, well, I have a W-2 or a pay stub
Hmm.
every day. So it's like, well, how am I even going to get into a place? And so they're all looking at it, well, this isn't good. And you don't look at the things that I've done or what I'm doing every day or the fact that every day I wake up and I just live. and I try, and I have all of these other things. They just look at the little things and they judge. And judgment on people is something we have got to stop doing. And the one word, and I'm going to preach this from now on, is sorry. Fucking stop saying sorry. I listen.
Yes.
If you text me, and I told her this. I said, oh, how was your day? Could have been better. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to me. It just is sucks to be you. That doesn't help anybody, right? If you fuck up and you need to say you're sorry, just say you apologize. I apologize. Don't say I'm sorry, because sorry didn't help anybody. What do you want me to say? Something positive. Tell someone something positive. There's a little movement going on. I've seen it where replace in your business life, in your personal life, replace I'm sorry with thank you. Thank you.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. That's what I tell people all the time. Hey, thank you for being flexible in your schedule and making the time later. Thank you for this. Now, if you really hurt somebody, it's okay to say, hey, I'm sorry that, I came at you that way and I hurt you. But everybody's so quick to say, I'm sorry for everything.
Right.
Hey, sorry, I'm late. No, just say, hey, thanks for waiting. I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
such a different mentality.
It's so different.
And those little switches you make, it's ridiculous how profound they actually show up in your life when you do them.
Yeah. That's a fact. You just start
Yeah.
building people up. Stay positive, man. Look, it's for me, I would have all these little moments at the bike shop where, I built custom parts, I painted them, I was an airbrush artist. I'd spend hours painting these, works of art, and then I'd hand them to my cousin that worked for me, and we always called him Grumpy Dan because he was always just grumpy as fuck. And I'd hand him something, put it on, he'd be the one putting the bike back together, and that was his job. Oh man, fucking scratch on this thing, and I'm like, I gotta fix that, right? Like I'm gonna be here all night now because I have to fix it. It's like, oh man, it's of no consequence to him. What do you want me to do? Yell at? If I yell at him, it's not going to be fixed. It's like, all right, thanks, Dan. Thanks. Give it to me. I'm gonna go fix that. Cool. I'd be like, I'm sorry. That fucking fix anything. But it does when I read that message anytime. It just, if you're down and you read I'm sorry, it's just a gut punch. That's what it is. And we have got to change that. We've got to change the way we talk to people, the way we treat people. Man, there's just no reason to be an asshole. I have a shirt on my site that is something that Gary Vee said that says, kindness is karma. And I'm like, that's it. Just be nice to people, man. It's not difficult. It will change the life. I look back and people that I've talked to on YouTube, in real life, and the lives that I've changed just by talking to somebody. It's powerful. That's what you need to do. Just be that person of uplifting spirits, and you can help people overcome.
I think it's like, have some empathy. You don't know what the person next to you is going through. So when somebody's getting pissed off and they're coming at you in a certain kind of way, always understand it's 99.9999% never even about you.
Right.
It's about a trigger. It's about something that happened that day. It's about all these other things that doesn't have to deal with you. And you have a choice in that moment. Do I react and match anger with anger, match words with words, or do I take a second, really respond out of love, respond out of respect? And because as I've done this, it's taken me a lot of years to get to this point, and I'm probably 90% good at it. Like I'll still react sometimes, and you respond instead of reacting to how somebody's coming at you, and instantly their whole attitude changes most of the time. And you can set boundaries and parameters. You can do all those things with somebody like that, but instantly their whole aura changes, right? You might literally be the person that saves that person's life that day because you responded with kindness, even though they came at you with a little bit of anger. And if the world moved in that way, what a different society we would live in. There wouldn't be suicide and pain, and there wouldn't be people suffering in silence. And you mentioned one other thing I want to touch on too is judgment. I think we as human beings are so quick to judge all the time. I try really hard not to judge. I still do sometimes. But the whole reason I've been on this mission, and the whole reason I think you're doing TMF and you're being so vulnerable and authentic, even on this, is it's like we need to remove the stigma of trauma, because trauma just crushes people's souls as adults, and that's why they react. That's why they do all these things. But everybody's so fearful of what somebody's going to say. I will tell you, 99% of my life, anytime I've ever shared the story, somebody else empathizes. Not only do they empathize, but me sharing my story a little bit opens a safe space for them to share theirs back. Things they've never shared with anybody.
Right.
Because now, because I was courageous enough to share my story in that moment, because I understand the value of what it does for healing, they say, well, you understand. I'm not alone. Like, I don't have to, like, you get where I'm coming from when I talk about the things that I've been through too. And it's like you can see the physical transition in somebody when they're sharing. It's almost like they feel lighter, almost like they're lifting in their chair, almost like they're letting the stuff off of their, letting it out of the backpack that they've been carrying their whole life. And so, if we can get to a point, especially as men, if we can support each other as brothers every single time we have a conversation, that don't mean it's always deep. That don't mean we don't talk about Corvette, the new Corvette that's badass.
Right.
That don't mean we don't talk about all these other things that we do, the promos. That don't mean that there's not space for that. That just means there's also a space to stop trying to be this. I hate this alpha male bullshit mentality that we got everywhere. Nobody cares, work harder. Bullshit. All you do is make people feel alone. And to be a real alpha male, you support your brother. You open up space. You lift your brother up. That's what an alpha male does. Not somebody who just beats their chest and says they're alpha, when really that comes from a massive place of insecurity.
Right. No, I agree with that. There's a thing like, and I don't know. Recently I've seen it pop up more and more in my brain than before. But when people are like, "Oh, you just got to work on yourself. You just got to be okay with being alone. You just got to do this and that." Like that's not. Look, you can work on yourself, but you can have people around you that help you. Just going, you know what you need to do? You need to focus on you. Yeah, maybe I need to work on me, but maybe me working on me is telling you that I need help, that I need someone around that can go, today I don't know what to do. I need an idea. I need something. I don't feel great. People need interaction. They need to talk to somebody. They need a hug, man. A hug will change your life. Tell me it won't change your life when you are feeling like absolute shit, and a person that means something to you, get even a stranger, man, just gives you a hug, you feel better. And you can change someone's life by being nice to them. Don't judge them. Dude, I have employed people that were homeless. I have employed people that their life was, I met them and just was like, dude, you just need a fucking chance. I've changed people's lives that were definitely not in a good place.
Yeah.
And I think back on that, I'm like, I did a lot for people. And then when I felt, on a hard time, I was like, I've done so much for people. Like, why do I feel like there's no one cares? Like, no one cares to help me. But at the end of the day, if you don't tell them, if you just put that shield up and go, I'm fine, I'm okay, then no one's gonna think twice about it. We do. They look at guys and they go, all right, yeah, well, you're fine. Yeah, work harder, hustle harder. Okay. Let me tell you, that life that you're promoting, I get it. If you want to be successful and do something, you have to put in the work.
Yep.
That is a fact. But you do not have to shut out the world and emotion and everything else to get there.
That's right.
For me.
And you'll never get there and be fulfilled if you do it. You'll never get there and be fulfilled. Now, I love what you said. It like for me, it's like people say, "Oh, you need to work on yourself," like you said, right? That doesn't mean segment. I love that you mentioned that, because what it means is you need to turn around and face the things, face the opportunities you have to be a better person head on. Stop running from them. Like, trauma never gets tired. You can't hide from it. It'll never stop chasing you. At some point, you got to turn around, look that shit in the eye, truck it, and just keep going. But you need a support system around you to be able to do that in those moments when you just need that. But it also means, especially as men, like, when was the last time you did something you enjoyed? I love asking this question to people. I love fishing. I love off-roading. When I was going through that grind in corporate America, what, like literally the week I had that breakdown, my wife looked at this Life 360 app that we have because we have teenage daughters that are out and about,
Right.
and we're on there. It's track shoe, right? She goes, you know, you haven't even went outside for a week because you're just working so hard. I stopped doing the things that I enjoyed. So when people say work on yourself, to me, what that means is do the things that bring life into you. Go
Yeah.
golfing, go fishing, go walking, go work out, go off road, go whatever the hell that is for you. Make time at least once a week to do something that's just pure enjoyment,
Yeah.
because it does change that. And it makes you feel less fine, right? And
Yeah.
more just excited about life again. So to me, that's what work on you means, instead of, like you said, how people feel like work on you means just go back into your hole
Right.
and don't talk about any of this to me again.
Grind it
You know,
out. And that's why I've had such a tough go of it the last like 2 weeks, man. I mean, I spent the last 3.5 months working across from my best friend, and we have a connection that is hard to come by. And
hmm
it's like, okay, but are we progressing? I don't know, but I know I'm happy as fuck, and I know every day isn't great. But if I'm sitting here and I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know what to do. We just get up and take the dogs for a walk. All right.
hmm
And if she was feeling down, I'm like, what do we do? I bring you something, a snack. Let's get up. Let's just go take 5 minutes. I got so much work to do. I got so much work. I can't. You've got 10 fucking minutes,
yeah,
right? The world is not ending. Let's go. Let's get out. It will step outside. Look out the window. Working from
hmm
home sounds great, and it is great if you're not sitting at home alone all day. Because if you're sitting at home alone all day, it's the worst thing that you
yeah.
can do. Like you're just in your own little prison. And you're like, how I
hmm
miss people. I miss like bullshitting and joking around with people and just
Yes.
interaction. And if we just lock ourselves up, and I think a lot of people are facing that right now, they're just locked up in their house. And
And it's like a blind spot. They don't even realize they're doing it until their mental health is so atrophied.
right,
And I think another thing too is like the life's challenges is what unlocks these superpowers that we have. And you think about empathy and grit and resilience and initiative and compassion. When you've been through some of the hardest things life has to offer and you come out the other side of that, it's almost like you live an elevated sense of who you are that you can't see when you're in the tornado of those emotions. And I think if more people thought in the toughest moments, if they stopped saying, God, why is this happening to me? Like, why does this keep happening to me? Why couldn't I lived? Why couldn't I have done this? Why was I abused? And instead reframe it and say, why did this happen for me? Why is this happening for me? What's the lesson for me to learn? What am I supposed to maybe pour into and serve somebody else with based upon my own life experiences? And take, so every challenge that I have, there's plenty of them. They're never going to stop in my life. That's life.
right,
And but as I turned it around and said, why is this happening for me? Like, what's the lesson for me? Or what am I supposed to do for somebody else to grow to the next level of who I'm supposed to be? And as I've taken that mentality into life and stopped saying, why does this happen to me? Which then makes you feel bad. It makes you feel, you just get in
right.
this wallowing place. Why is this happening for me? It makes you analyze and it makes you progress just in changing the word to the word for. It's phenomenal when you do that, how profound that is in your life.
Yeah. And it could be that the thing that's happening right now that you don't like, it's like, okay, well, this is just telling me I should be doing something different. I shouldn't be doing this. Or I made a mistake, and I will learn from that mistake and I will move on. We don't
Mhm.
have to wallow in it. And there's a quote on one of the videos that I listen to all the time that it's Rogan says, you are not the person you were a year ago. You are not the person you were 5 years. You're not the person you were yesterday. You are the person who woke up today, and this is your life. Stop looking back. And I tell people, I don't have a rear view, man. I don't. I just take
Sure.
in life, I don't have a rear view mirror. We don't look back and go, ah, we should have done, because life's not behind you. Life is in front of you. You
Mhm.
can learn from it. You can look and go, all right, yeah, I remember that. But don't just sit there and stare into that thing and just constantly think, man, I shouldn't have done this. Oh, okay. Well, what am I going to do today? That's what
Yeah.
matters. And people that want to
Mhm.
judge you on something you did a year or 5 years ago, you're not the same person, man. You can change, and you can change right now. And maybe the outcome won't be immediate, but you can do that. You have habits. You can break habits. It's hard. It's not easy, but you can do it every single day, a little bit. and you
Well,
can make
action
life
creates
better.
results, which creates belief, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you have to take action to move from where you're at. But if you take, even like you just said, it could be a little bit, right? An inch, not a leaping
Right.
bound. And take a little bit of action. You go get results from that action. The results will create belief, which makes you take more action. And when that wheel gets turning, and that belief continues to grow, you'll take action faster, you'll get better result. But it all starts with taking that first tentative step, like I need to do something different, I'm actually going to freaking do it, and then taking the action. When I left corporate America, I hadn't written a word, I hadn't done anything, but as I wrote more of the book, I got better results, my belief increased, and it was like
Right.
it just ramped, right? And it just keeps ramping and ramping. And so I think for anybody out there listening, find the thing that is just crushing you inside and just take action to move away from that. Because to your point, like, you got to look out the windshield of life. That's one of the things I love the most about the feedback I've gotten from the book. So many people have said, you never sound like a victim of what happened to you was horrific. And I was like, look, I was victimized for my first 16 years of life, but I refuse to be a victim. And I hate the word victim. I'm like, you didn't just make it. You're not a victim. You're not a survivor. You didn't just make it to this point in your life. You're a fighter. Like, you've been swinging and kicking and fighting your whole freaking life. And you're a fucking warrior from the things that have happened to you because you're still here. And so own that power. Like, breathe that into yourself where you just feel this point like, God, I'm a badass. I'm a tough motherfucker, right? And then you take that and you can look out this windshield of life and haul ass and start to get the results that you really want. But when you get the results, you're going to be happy and they're going to be more fulfilling because now you're enjoying the journey that gets you to the results that ultimately you want to get. It's a magical place to be, bro. And it's not like a rock don't hit the windshield. You're like, shit, son of a bitch. Like, right, you're driving on the freeway, a rock, it just startles the hell out of you, right? But you don't stop. I don't pull over. I don't start looking out the rear view to find the rock again.
Right.
My ass just keeps going.
You just keep
right?
going.
And if I need to fix that little rock ping, that little rock hole crack, whatever it is, then you just fix it. You look at it, you figure out what the solution is, and you move towards the solution, lean into the pain, lean into what it is, and then figure out what that is, take the action, get it fixed, and keep moving without stopping. That's what so many people need to do, because we just get paralyzed and we get comfortable in the pain that we're in instead of getting uncomfortable, driving through that tunnel of darkness that we feel like is standing in front of us. And it's almost like a mountain. Think a mountain, you go around a curve, right? And you drive into this tunnel in the mountain and you're like, it's dark. If you turned your light off, you'd probably crash on your car, right? And you hit the little curve and all of a sudden, boom, there's this light out there. Well, people like us have walked these journeys. That's why we share these stories, because we know on the other side of that tunnel is light. We know it's right there within your grasp. You just got to make a decision to lean into the pain and the darkness and the feeling of the lack of belief. Like, use our stories as inspiration to drive the belief to continue to drive forward so that you can find that light. Then you can turn around and share your story for the next person coming through that tunnel that doesn't need yours, it doesn't need mine. They need the next person's story that might be listening to this. Man, it's when you do that, life turns magical.
Yeah, it's for people, starting is the hardest thing with anything. And I tell this to people that when it comes to being an entrepreneur or starting anything that you want to do, or it could even be a massive career change, like there's two types of people out there. And you can be whichever person you want. You can make a decision. Like, there's people that, for an entrepreneur, we go up, we climb up to the top of the cliff, we run and we just jump. And we build a parachute on the way down. We're like, we don't know how to get there, but I know that step one, I got to get off the mountain. So we jump and we try to build the parachute. And sometimes that day you just go splat in the ground. And then tomorrow you wake up and you climb back up and you go, and you jump again and you try to build it again. And then you have another sector of life where people watch people jump constantly and they just watch them. They go, splat. And they go, like, I think I could do that. I could probably do it. And they prepare and they plan, and they buy a parachute and they learn about parachutes and they YouTube parachutes and they get all their stuff together and they go up to the top of the mountain and they look and they go, I just can't do it. I got all the stuff, but I don't want to jump because I'm too scared. And meanwhile, while they're standing there looking over Everyone else is just just jumping.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to have, if you want to go about life and tackle life alone, you will forever stare off that mountain. You will never know what's on the other side. You'll never know. Like, all right, but if you go through life with people and you build a support system and you have someone in there that means something to you, that understands you, that person will go, hey, nice parachute, and just push you right off. And that I've done that for people. And I've done that, and it's like, look, you're gonna be okay. Here you go, boom, see you down there. And then you jump right behind them. And if you fail, cool. The next day you're like, that sucked. Let's jump again. And that's to me, that's the analogy that I have for going through those changes. Like, you have to just jump. You have to. If you don't, you will miss out on what could be an amazing life. And don't think because you're too old or you have a family, you can't do it. You can change any day. You can wake up today and go, I'm not doing this.
Yes.
And one thing that you don't think about is that, and I hear all of these, I listen to a lot of motivational things or inspired or quotes or from people that you just presume have great lives, whether they're celebrities or influential people. Like, you think their everyday life is amazing. It's not. Every day they're humans. They're not Keanu Reeves isn't John Wick every day, right? Come on, man. That's not real. But that's all we see. And there was a Will Smith clip on there where he was talking about we take goodbye for granted. Like, when you say goodbye to someone that leaves your house or wherever you're at, you should say it like you're never going to see them again. And there's people right now that left for work this morning that aren't coming home.
Yep.
And we it's outside of our bubble. And if we can change the way we act and change the way we treat people and change our mindset and live your best life, make a decision today. If you're in a position where you're just unhappy, do something, reach out, call somebody, let them know I'm not happy. I don't like this. I want to change. Get an idea. Maybe that person that just thought everything was fine because you bottled it all up. Oh man, they're doing great. Look at them, fucking doing great. And you're at home just like having a war within yourself. That's so many people.
Well, think about this. You look from the outside looking in, and comparison is a thief of joy, number one. So, like, don't ever compare, except to say, like, well, that person can do this shit. I can do it too. Think about Anthony Bourdain, right? From the outside looking in, you'd be like, damn, that dude has everything. He committed suicide.
Yep.
Kate Spade, she's a billionaire, right? Committed suicide. Robin Williams, one of the most revered comedic actors of all time, committed suicide.
Robin Williams' story is extremely sad.
Right. So from the outside in, people are like, oh man, they just got everything on. I'm sitting here and I'm suffering. No, those people were suffering in silence. Like, you guys, we can't continue to suffer in silence.
Right.
You can't continue to live a life of quiet desperation. You would be surprised. It's almost like if you meet somebody that has never been through something traumatic, it's like a miracle. Those people almost feel bad they haven't experienced something like that. I'm like, no, be happy. You don't want it. Be happy you haven't. But it's like, there's so many people, almost probably every single one of your friends out there that would understand different aspects of what you're going through, that would understand and be there and be able to empathize and maybe open up to you about something they need. And so, to me, it's like, we just got to quit being fearful of the judgment. We just got to stop comparing ourselves to others, thinking that they have it all, when Heath Ledger's another one, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that you have it all when really they're suffering in silence, and start to remove the stigma of trauma, start to remove the stigma of like openly sharing about stuff. And by doing that, we create more of a healed world where everybody's happier.
Yeah, that's true. The judgment is immense. And you brought Robin Williams. That his story is from everyone growing up watching Robin Williams brings so much joy and happiness to the world. And to be such a miserable, depressed, upset person inside it just wrecks everything you thought. Like, you're like, man, that guy was going through the absolute worst. He did spend no time with his family. He was just depressed to a level that we can't even comprehend. But hey, he had money, he had fame, you changed the world definitely by being in it, but what did it cost
Mhm.
him? What was the price that he paid for that? And why? Why did that have to happen like that? You know?
Well, what was he running from, right? What was he running from that he never turned, face, and
Yeah,
ran over so it would stop chasing him his whole life?
right.
And I think so many of us walk around. I did it for years too. You walk around with a mask on. Like I had this big, boisterous personality and I'm partying. I mean, my voice is hoarse today because I've been doing so much talking recently. But, and I just live it like people would be like, this guy's the life of the party. And meanwhile, I was miserable inside. It was like walking around with a mask on. And it's until I turned and faced the things that were really causing me a lot of pain. And I started to use my antidote I had here, which is speaking my truth and letting that shit go. I never was really able to take that mask off. And once I was able to take it off, though, once I could really live as the truest version of myself, it opened up another, 20% of happiness I was missing out on. And I think about all those people who had from a societal box, right? Look at all the success because they fit society's version of success, which is things and money. But nobody ever realizes like societal success shouldn't be things or money. They should be happiness because happiness changes the way we interact with everybody.
Yeah. I think that is I honestly think that that is a thing that this new generation that is, you know, 18 to 25, that kind of realm is embracing. And it's something, I think it's one of the few good things that came out of this entire COVID pandemic is that people were told you can't go to work, your job's not here, you need to stay home. And they were like, what do I do? I have a lot of time on my hands. You know what I like doing? I like blogging. I like making funny TikToks. I like
Mm-hmm.
doing all of these things. And they just started doing things. And then some of them found great success. And the new rich, as I see this come out a lot, the new rich isn't a big house and fancy cars. The new rich is someone who gets to live life. You know, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
financial freedom, they don't have the debt of student loans and mortgages and living in a van, driving
Yep.
around, and they're the happiest people. And you look at them and
Yes.
you go, I could never do that. I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, I've got, like, no, you could do that. I mean, is
Yes.
it the best idea for your kids to live in a van? Maybe not,
Yeah.
but you could do it. You could change. You could have this life. But up until very recently, society's idea was you went to school, went to college. Some of you went to college.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you were too stupid to go to college. You're going to get a shit job. And you just work until you're 65. You get 401k, you retire, and then that's your
Mm-hmm.
life. And I live for the weekend. And if you can dude, if you can forget that Saturday and Sunday are the weekend, your life will be immensely
Yes.
better. Fuck, you
Bro,
don't
think
live in
about
two
this.
days.
Think about this. You said maybe it's not the best for the kids to live in the van. Maybe it really is.
Maybe it is.
Maybe because the kids have happier parents and they're better parents because they're happy and not irritable all the time because they're so stressed out and tired. Maybe like the real wealthy, and I'm not talking about money wealthy, the people I feel like are most wealthy are the people that have figured this out. They're not chasing the things, they're chasing the experiences. I think about my teenage daughters. They don't remember when I bought them an iPad. They don't remember
Right.
toys and shit they got for Christmas, right? You know what they remember? The trips, the family time, the laughs, the fun. And so we get so caught up in that, and I use it all the time, the societal box of what success is. But in that box, nobody talks about happiness.
No.
And so maybe it is best for your kids because they get a fully involved parent who's happy and they grow up to be the best version of themselves because they have that.
Yeah.
And so, but the judgment of
The
keeping up with the
judgment.
Joneses is what well, I want my Jeep. I want this. I want that. I want this. We want things, but we're miserable even though we have the fucking things.
Right.
That's the problem, right? We have it. That was me in corporate America. So I had all this stuff that I felt like I needed when I was a boy and I wanted to create this life I wanted. But
Yeah.
it almost cost me my life. And it cost me 2 months of me being able to think clearly. Thank God I have an amazing wife and amazing daughters, and they're supporting this journey I'm on. But do you know now, because I'm happier than I've ever been in my life now, I'm showing up different as their father. I'm showing up different as a husband. They don't care about the money. If we have to sell the house and go buy an RV. That's what we do. Fuck
Right.
it, let's do it. Let's do what makes us happy instead of what we think we need to do because we're keeping up with the Joneses or we're fear of judgment. Like, man, like that's what this new generation has on the old generation is
Yeah.
that ability to understand what's real wealth. And this new generation, it is not money. That's why the gig economy is so popular now. It's just making enough to just do what you want to do
Yeah.
and live this happy life.
Yeah, and that's powerful. And you can do that at any age. And you're right, the
Mhm.
experiences do matter. And like I said, with what I'm going through now and the judgment that is being, I mean, obviously, they're not telling me this, they're telling her this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I told her, I said, I honestly, I'm not fighting to prove them wrong. I don't give a fuck about their opinion at all. I'm here to prove you right. That when you look and say, you know what, he's gonna do that shit. That's what I'm here for. I don't care. I don't care if if you want to look at that dude and go, he's struggling. Okay, well, let's look at what we did the last year. All the times we went on the boat and the lake, we went on hikes. Look at all the memories that we had, right? That were great. That you know who was there? Who was there to see it? It was just me and you. They didn't see any of
Mhm.
that. They're judging
Mhm.
me on this little window. Okay, and
Would they
that's what we
rather have a
do.
guy that makes money and treats her like shit? You know what I'm saying? But
That's
he's
it.
successful,
Successful. Yeah.
or what you guys had last year, going
Right.
out and doing all these experiences.
Right.
And by the way, how happy was she being there with you?
Just we
That's what
were
they're not seeing.
right. That's what you don't see. You only see the outside going, and you focus on that, and you judge on that. You don't go, oh man. I said, they won't not know any of the things that I sacrificed to make the time I did to be happy with you.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
realized that, and I said, going forward, I made a decision. I want to do something that I can be happy doing and spend time with the people that I love. And
Mhm.
if you think that me going, well, you should just go get another job. Okay, so me being away from the people I love and doing something that I don't like is going to, how is that going to better my situation? Why don't
Yeah.
you just say, you know what? You know what? Today you didn't sell enough t-shirts. You didn't make enough content. You didn't do enough of this. Why don't you
Mhm.
go, all right, well, you should have, what can we do? What can we do to sell more shirts? What can we do to do this? For me, and I always lived being in the bike shop with, when it came to money, it was never like, well, we need to cut a couple bills. For me, it was
Yeah.
always, what do I need to do to make an extra $150, $300? I need $1,000. What do I need to sell to
Mhm.
do that? What service do I need to provide? I can get there. I don't want to take away from life. I want to add to it. And
Mhm.
if you take the monetary thing out of it and go, what do I need to do to make me happy? I need to spend more time. You know what I really like doing? I really like going on that hike. We went up that mountain. That was hard, but it was fun. All right,
Mhm.
I need to do more of that. How do I get more of that in my life? How do I get more experiences? And you look back and, she gave me for my birthday last year, she gave me these tiles. They're like photo tiles that you stick on the wall. And it was like
Mhm.
24 of them that she got all the photos off my phone when I was asleep or some shit and printed up of me and the kids and the dog and us doing stuff. And man, I tell you, there's not been a better birthday present. I couldn't stop crying opening it, like
Mhm.
I get emotional thinking about it now because
Yeah.
that's the shit that matters. I don't need stuff. I
That's
don't
right.
need things. I like things. I like having gadgets. I'm a gadget person,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make me happy.
Mhm.
Those experiences make you happy. And that's people need to realize that. Stop telling your friends, you're fine. You don't need them. You'll be fine. No.
Mhm.
If that person makes you happy and they're going through some shit, be there for them because finding
Mhm.
those people in life is not easy.
Well, and find the addition by subtraction, right? Conversely to that, those people who are bringing toxicity into your life all the time, and it's like the crabs in a pot. The crab tries to get out, and the other crabs are like pulling it back in. There's people like that we have in our lives sometimes, and it doesn't mean you don't love them, but you can love them from afar, and find those things in your life that prevent you from doing the things that you really love. Like you said, like how do I find more joy? I want to spend more time with my kids. How do I do that? Well, watching my third, basketball game for the week isn't really filling me up. It's just like I have apathy in my life, and I'm just moving through it every single day, just getting through it. But if making me happy means spending more time with my kids or going off roading or doing something, like I'd rather not watch that and go do what makes me happy. So I subtract something and I add value to my life because of
Yeah.
it. So I think figure out where those pieces are at that don't add value to your life. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean just hustle and grind and always work. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doing the things that bring you joy, and literally your energy level increases naturally. The output of what you do when you're hustling and you're grinding changes and gets like the output is so much better when you're energized, when you rested, when you're doing the things. So you got to learn how to pour into yourself first before anything else. And it's amazing where you said you cried. So my wife made me a video years ago for Father's Day, and it has pictures of my girls taking them fishing and holding, and it's got the song by Trace Adkins, "Just Fishing," on it. And
Right.
he's like taking his daughter, and oh man, I was a mess watching that. And it was, and they're all looking at me watching. They're like, "We made you cry." Yes. you know,
Right.
and you know what it was? It wasn't anything that we surrounded ourselves with. It was the memories of doing something special with my girls
Yeah.
that brought me the greatest joy in life. Guys, we got to start chasing experiences with the people we love the most, not chasing things.
Yeah.
Get rid of the damn things. Start putting experiences in those spaces instead, and it'll transform your life.
The only time that I would say that the things matter is if it's you need that thing is just part of the experience. For me it was
Sure.
like I bought a boat because everything shut down. There was nothing to do. I live 5 minutes from a lake. So I was like, you know what? I got a boat. And what did we do? Man, we went on that boat all the time and we laughed and we played on the beach and we took the dogs out there and we had so much good
Mhm.
memories out there. The boat comes and goes. I had to sell the boat because I need the money because I
Mhm.
changed everything. I needed the cash, and that sucks. But I can buy another boat. The
Yep.
boat gave me the memories, right? But let me tell you something. If I just go out there on my boat by myself, those memories aren't there, man. That's what people
Mhm.
need to understand. It's not about having the stuff. If the stuff is great, if you have people in your life to share it with, that's what it's
Mhm.
about. And you've got to be able to
Yes.
get there. Don't think that you have to give up everything to get the boat, because the boat's not the end game.
Right.
The end game
Right.
is the memories. And if you can't get a boat and you can get something else, man, you can just
Just
go
go
to
to the
just
lake.
go to the lake, right? You're still at the
Yeah.
lake, you're not just
Yes.
flying across the water, but you can still
Mhm.
have the memories. And that's what's
Yeah.
important. When you look at it, you go, I gave up all of this stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I gained so much more in the memories and the time that I had with them. And you know, I really feel bad for people. I feel empathy for families who both parents work all day long and their kids go to
Mhm.
school, and you see them for 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then Saturday and
Mhm.
Sunday you're like, you get bummed out if it rains because you're like, I had one day, I had one fucking day off. I didn't
Yep.
have to do nothing, and
Yes.
it
Yep.
rains, and they're mad, and you're like,
Yes.
God, this sucks, and then everyone's butthurt about it. Man, look,
Yeah.
Wednesday, you can go do shit on Wednesday. This is a news flash. Every day that you're alive, you can go do shit. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what day it is. It's just
Yes.
check the kid out of school. Let's go. We're going to do
Mhm.
something. You can live
And the thing
life.
is, like, so two parents work, and a lot of, like, my wife, we chose for her not to work and take care of the kids, right? So we moved from a bougie apartment in San Diego when she got pregnant into base housing in Miramar at the Marine base there. That was old as hell,
Right.
a little townhome. And you can make sacrifices to gain the experience and the time. So if two people work, my wife asked me a couple of years ago, she goes, "Do you want me to go back to work now that the kids are older?" And I said, honestly, babe, if you need to go back to work because you need that fulfillment, have at it. But let's say you go back to work. What are we going to do? Buy a Mercedes now? We're going to buy something different, something nicer. Like, we have cars, they work great. Like, there's not an issue there. But we get so caught up in managing people's perceptions of what they think of us, of that judgment that
Yeah.
they're going to have, either good or bad, right? That we start chasing these things, and then we put the priority on those things instead of the people around us, ourselves. And man, it's just, I wish people can make this transformation. And by the way, I was chasing those things until a year ago. I'm not saying this from the
Right.
perspective of not living it myself, but I know what it's like when you stop living it and you get to the other side of that. And it's
Yeah.
about the purpose filled life where you can still have things. It's not like I don't need to pay my bills and I don't want to monetize some things and do other
Right.
stuff. But my book launch, I'm going to tell you, one of the best memories I all will have of that. First of all, my wife got videos of like 100 people that talked about how I made an impact, and it was special stories between us and them. And to see my wife speak on stage for the first time, she was terrified of doing that, but because she loves me, she did it. Right? That's my jam, not hers.
Right.
And then to see my 2 teenage daughters get up there and what they said. So yeah, it was cool. I sold books. It was cool. I sold a couple hundred books there, and people were buying 3 and 4 books for other people to give to them
Right.
because the story is that good in respect to just being a healing story. But I'm going to remember the love. I'm going to remember the experience of seeing my kids up on stage at different points in front of 125 adults speaking and just having poise and doing so great. And my wife overcoming her, self-doubt and self-limiting beliefs about being up there in front of everybody and doing it anyway and running through that fear and
Right.
doing it anyway. And then feeling empowered, like, oh my God, I did it. When she was done, she was so excited. And just, that's what I'm gonna remember. I'm not gonna remember the facility it was in. It was super nice. I'm not gonna remember that I sold 200 plus books. Like, that stuff doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
It's the people, the love, the experience, and every experience, like you said, doesn't have to equate to something modest. You don't have to have the boat to go to the lake. It's cool if you have one, but you don't have to have that. Just go to the damn lake and, hang out and jump in the water and do something fun with your
Right.
life, because we're just so programmed to just beat ourselves down every day. Go have fun and experience life, because it's short. And
Yeah.
I'm 44 years old 10 months ago, and it took me till I was 44 to finally step out of what I thought I needed, and step into my actual purpose. 10 months later now, I know the difference and how that feels.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. I mean, it took me 38 years, like
Mm-hmm.
of my whole professional life. It was like I felt like I had to do it. I think that's the pressure that
Mm-hmm.
men feel. We have to do this thing. We have to get this,
Mm-hmm.
achieve this thing. And people who are successful, that's eye of the beholder shit, man. That's all it is. It's like, what do you want? Do you want a big house that you live in by yourself? Do you want nice cars that there's a guy that goes to my gym over here and he drives a McLaren to the gym. He drives a McLaren to the gym every day. And I'm like, it's a cool looking car, but even if I had the money, I wouldn't buy it and drive it to the gym. Like, it's so impractical a vehicle to own. Yeah, just like, okay, but
Yeah.
that makes you happy. Maybe from the. I'll tell you this: anyone that walks to that parking lot and sees that dude get out of that car, their immediate judgment is that dude's doing something right. What does he do?
Mm-hmm.
What is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's the immediate perception that society puts on him. And then he might be happy, and he might be the most miserable person. He could get out of the
Right.
car, put my fake face on, let's go in the gym. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and go home, and he could live a life of solitude and depression and everything else because he's given up happiness to get that thing.
That's right.
Don't give
How
up
many wealthy
happiness.
people have you, like, literally, you see it on TV, you see it because someone committed suicide, you see it when you meet them. They're actually miserable because they're chasing things. This
Yeah,
life is not about things. Like, you guys, I'm 45. You said you're what, 34,
I'm
33,
39.
34,
39.
39, right? So take take this advice we're given on here. Turn what could take you decades. It took us decades to learn
Yeah.
this. Turn it into days or weeks by listening to what we're saying and actually implementing some change in your life. It's so important. And this is why you do TMF, right? It's why I come on podcasts and I share. It's why I wrote the book. Like, it's literally about helping transform people's lives and serving people in a way that can help inspire them to make the change they need to make. Um, in creating this humanity where we're all focused on that, where we're the lighthouse in the dark for somebody,
Right.
right? But the goal isn't for me to try to light the world up. I can't do it by myself. I can be a lighthouse in the dark for the people in that space, but someone needs your story and someone needs the next story. And at some point, if we create enough lighthouses in the dark, they're just not any more dark.
Yeah.
But you're not going to light yourself up by buying something. You're going to
No.
light yourself up by experience and life and love. And also, And everybody talks about biggest, like the flex, oh, the flex, let me shoot this money out of these little special guns that shoot money. Let me get on there in alpha male and make my voice gritty, and let me
Right.
do all of these things and show you my jet that I'm next to and this Corvette I rented that I'm flexing and taking a picture next to. What I have found in my life, the ultimate flex, especially for men, the ultimate flex of strength is vulnerability.
Yeah.
And if you can find the space to be vulnerable and let this unpack the stuff you've been hanging on to, it has a tremendous effect on your life. I know, because I've lived it, I've experienced it. I know what it's like on this side. I know what it's like on this side. And I'm still growing every single day. And I will be until the day that I die, to
Yeah.
continue to unlock the next piece of who I am. So just start.
That's a good point. That's a great point to it. It really is. Don't think that because someone's vulnerable that they're not a strong person, that they're weak.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, that's not how this works. You know, there's been times where, the people, the most dangerous people on the planet walk away from conflict, and the people who chase conflict are not the most dangerous people. There was a story that Jocko told, and I played it for my son because he was doing wrestling and stuff. He was talking about bullies at school. And I said, I want you to listen to this. And Jocko tells the story. He goes, I train jujitsu so I can, the best thing that you can do when someone wants to fight you is to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to run away. And if you want to swing at me, I want to move and try to get out and just subdue you so I can run away. And if you put your hands on me, I'm going to put you on the ground so I can run away, because I do not want to fight you, because in that moment, that could change my life forever. What do I need to do? Why do I need to buck up on somebody? I don't need to do that. I need to just stay calm. I need to run away. I don't want to fight. People do not want to fight. And the ones that out there chasing a fight are running from something in their own life. And people who are constantly judging or passing judgment on other people in a negative way are running from something, And that's why I love Jocko's mindset of just good. If something bad happens to you, good. It didn't go well, good. What did we learn from that? Great. I learned something.
Yeah.
Let's move
It happened
on.
for me, right? Not to me.
Right. It happened for you. Good. This thing messed up. Good. I got a flat tire. Good. And who knows, if you didn't get that flat tire, the next intersection you could have got T-boned.
Yeah.
100%. You do not know that. Just look at everything that happens and just say good and move on. And it's okay to be upset. Take a minute, man. Look, just take a minute and just sit there and cry it out and just go, it's okay. Yes. Call somebody.
Like, take a minute and process it.
The
second thing I talk about the 4 keys to living an extraordinary life. The first one, we talked about speaking your truth. The second thing is, like, you got to accept what's happened for what it is. No matter what it is, no matter what point of life you're in. Like, my nervous breakdown in corporate America, I just had to accept that's what it was.
Right.
I didn't hide from it. I didn't sugarcoat it. And then I had to acknowledge the feelings that were associated with that. It's like you just said it. If something happens, cry it out. Like, cry, don't hold it in. Just let that shit go, man. It has no room in your soul to continue to carry this baggage. It's weighing us all down because we just feel like we're programmed to be resilient and not talk about shit. Just let it out, learn from it, and keep moving.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be stuck looking in the rearview mirror and living your life like you're in quicksand.
That's it.
Get the hell out of it. Keep moving.
That's it too. That's it. That's something people really need to take to heart, I think. Is that you just have to keep moving and you have to let it out. And I'll take the time, man. I'll just sit there, like, Megan will look at me and she's like, well, you just laid in bed for like an hour. Like, why don't you get up? I was like, I just need, if it's an hour I need an hour. I need an hour to think about every single thing right now that's weighing on me. And I need to compartmentalize it. I need to address the fact that I feel this way. And then when I get up, I'll move on. And I told my ex-wife when I'll tell you this, we went through, I was so upset over everything. She gave me the divorce papers on Christmas Eve. I'm supposed to wake up and have Christmas with my kids. And I'm just like, this is bullshit. And my birthday is on the 1st of January. And we weren't talking. We still live in the same house, but I was in a different room and I was not happy. And I decided I wasn't going to have the kids on my birthday because we were doing the split thing already, and I didn't want. I bought a plane ticket to Vegas, and I said I'm gonna fly to Vegas like 2 days before the first. I was like, it's gonna be impossible to be sad around a billion fucking people. I'm just gonna insert myself into energy and happiness. And I flew to Vegas, and I'll tell you, I was probably the saddest motherfucker in Vegas.
Yeah.
And everywhere I looked was people enjoying themselves and people with friends and loved ones, and I was just miserable. And I flew home early. I stayed through the New Year's Eve, and on New Year's Eve I was in my hotel room at midnight, upset, and I called the travel company and the and I was like, I'm going home. Like, how fast can I get on a plane? I want to see my kids. I do not want to be here. And I changed my flight, and I flew home. I didn't tell anybody I was leaving, and I got home, and the guy that she was seeing, his car's in the driveway as I pulled up, and I was like, this isn't going to be good. And I walked inside, and I just went into my room, and she came downstairs. She's like, "You're home?" And I'm like, "Nope, I am definitely not home. Like, this is not my home." And that dude just kind of snuck out the house, I guess.
Sure.
I'm not looking for a confrontation. At this point,
yeah.
I'm pretty down. And man, let me tell you, she came down there and she laid into me like the meanest I've ever had anyone respond to me or say things to me. And I just sat there and I took it. And for 2 days, I stayed in that room. And you need to get up and go to work. You can't just stay here. And I said, you know what? This is my life. I'm going to do what I want. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to feel this. And when I get up, I promise you, I will never feel this again. I will address this feeling. And when I get up, I will be relentless on moving forward. And nothing will be in my way. And I will not look back. And I didn't. I walked out of that house. When I moved out of that house, I did not look back. And people found it odd that it was like, we have kids together. I pick up the kids. If there's something that involves the kids, I text her. We did not speak. I didn't see her for 2 years. Like because that moment, I left that behind.
Yeah.
I didn't drag that into me. I don't want the judgment or the passive aggressiveness. But it was important, don't look at me and tell me I can't feel this way. Yeah,
Right.
it sucks.
That's right. Because that's how you feel.
It's how you feel. Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to do? Just bottle it up. Okay, got to go to work and just be at work, trying not to lose my fucking mind, and just have a tidal wave behind your eyes all day and walk around with that. You can't do that.
And add shame. You add shame when you don't allow yourself to feel it because you're like, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. But you do. That's the reality. And by saying you shouldn't, you just make yourself feel more shameful. You make yourself feel weak. You make yourself feel like you shouldn't do this. And it's like this desperate spiral we go down into instead of being like, this is some hard shit.
Yeah.
This is some really hard shit. And see another man in your house and all the stuff that you went through. Like, you tried to run from it, right? By going to Vegas.
Right.
You realize you can't run from trauma. I said at the beginning,
you cannot escape that.
It's traumatic. You come back, you have that moment, and then you had a decision to make in that moment. But you can't move forward until you deal with the emotion that's pinning you against the wall in that moment. But you can fight back against that emotion, knock it down, so that you never have to experience that again. And I think that's what people don't realize is you were able to move forward because you faced what was in front of you at that moment. You didn't turn around the other way anymore.
Right.
You laid there, you processed,
and that's
and then you let it go.
I lived that. Yeah, it was 2 days that I spent that were terrible. I spent all the time in bed, upset. I cried a lot, and I felt that way. And then the next week, when I left work, and I didn't even go home. I had a little shower at my shop. I brought clothes. I showered, and I looked up all the open mics in Atlanta. And I got in the car and I drove to Atlanta. And I'm like, I'm just going to go sit here. And maybe I don't even get to go up. I don't know anybody here. And I stayed there until I was tired. And I drove home and I went to sleep. And I did that every day that I didn't have my kids. I went downtown and I sat there. And I did it. I didn't sit at home and just be upset. I was upset. I faced it and I moved forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Don't care
Mm-hmm.
if someone looks at you while you're going through that and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe that," and they look down on you for it. That person can look. You got a circle. That person's outside that circle. You don't need them.
But people do that because they haven't dealt with their own shit. So they turn around and they judge. It's not even that about you in that moment. It's that they
Right.
can't even look within themselves. So I started writing my book, and I had family members that were like, "Oh my God, he's going to let out all the secrets." Oh, and they were totally judging me for writing this book. Some of my family, and I'm like, "You ain't even in it." So the audacity to think that you're in it, first of all, this is my story, not your story. It's not about me
Right.
letting everything out. It's what happened to me, period. And if you were a big piece of that, you might be in it. So my aunt who saved my life was in it. My sister who went through a lot of these things with me was in it. But otherwise, you're just not. And what I found is like in that moment, because one of my family members called me and said, "I just feel bad I never did anything about it." Because my dad's the oldest kid, or was, he's passed away now, but my aunt's the youngest of 9 kids or 8 kids. And so it's like there's all these other siblings in there, right? And it's, oh man, I wish I would have did so. I didn't know it was that bad. And I was like, well, it's irrelevant. The person God needed to save my life was Aunt Diana, nobody else. She was the
Right.
only person who could have did in 3 years transform me within 3 years to who I was and who I am now. And but the reality is like like healing's never linear. It's like you said, like you processed, you let go of some emotion, you went to Atlanta, you're still dealing with the
Oh
emotion.
yeah.
You're just step by step by
Right.
step. You're just getting up and moving and figuring it out while you take messy action.
Yeah.
Like take the messy action and just take a step. Just don't stay stuck, because staying stuck is actually going to pull your ass back. And then you're going to be in this real depression where you really struggle to get out of it. But even if you're in that depression, you got to say, I deserve it. I matter. I love myself enough to just move, to go
Right.
outside, to go for a walk, to just get my ass out of bed, maybe, and like get dressed for the day. Maybe that's your first step, but just do something and ultimately like get the courage to reach out and ask for help.
Yes.
God, we all suck at that shit.
We
Just
do.
ask for help.
We do because we fear the judgment of people that are important in our lives. I tell you, sitting down and telling Megan that I was not in a good place, I feared that more than anything in life. Like her coming over and me just sitting there going, I do not know how to tell you this because I do not want you to see me in this way. I want you to always see
Mhm.
me as the positive, uplifting person who's strong, when shit hits the fan, I stay composed and I'm okay. But I have to tell you right now that this is not okay. And the way that I feel is not okay. And when I did that, and I'm bawling my eyes out, like not, I'm just talking and I cannot stop water from
Speaking your
coming out
truth,
of my
bro.
face.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to see you upset. I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm not upset. I just can't help it. I
Mm.
don't know
Yeah.
why, but I have to let it out. And, you know, at the end of the conversation, it's like she understands. That person understands and it's okay. And they're not gonna fix it, but you let it out and you'll feel better. You'll leave the conversation
Mm-hmm.
going, okay. And now I can now if you couldn't make it out the door, guess what? You can walk out there now. And for me,
Bro, yeah.
like one of the things that Goggins said that really I did take to heart was do something every day that sucks. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be a big thing. Just something you're like, man, I don't fucking want to do that. Go do that thing.
Makes you grow.
It
Makes
does.
you grow.
You once you overcome the littlest thing, then
Yes.
everything else you're like, okay, I knocked that down. All right, we can knock down
Action
this other
results
thing.
belief, bro. Action
That's
results
right.
belief. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this though. When you talked to her about that in that moment, when you said, here's how I'm feeling, you think you're going to be seen as weak. There's two things that probably happen. I'm curious. One, I imagine she had so much more respect for you because you allowed yourself to be really authentic and vulnerable with her. I'm sure she loves you more because she knows she's created a safe space for you to open up. And so And dang it, what was my third point? I had a good third point there. And so anyway, but I think for you and her, it opens up a different type of relationship. But it's like you actually gain more respect. Oh, and the third thing is now she can respond to what's happening to you instead of wondering why you're not yourself.
Right.
Now she's like, oh shit. Now all of this makes sense. Okay, now I can support you in the way you need me to because you were vulnerable enough to open up and help me understand it. That's part of what that vulnerability does. And that's why it changes the relationships in a positive way. Like when I did it to my wife, and she's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I'm tired of the depths of my
Right.
soul. And she's like, wow, now I understand why you've been a little snippy and short in the last couple of weeks. So now I can love you in the way that you need me to and support you in the way you need me to so that I can be your rock for once because you're always everybody's rock.
Right.
Like now I can be your rock. And I give her the joy of being able to be my rock in that moment too.
Yeah.
Like then she feels good about supporting me in that way. So it's a win the whole way around, you know?
Right. Yeah. And you have to. And it was hard. It was very difficult to do that
Mm-hmm.
because this whole time, like, all the times that she fell and she was down and depressed, and she'd ball up on the couch, and I'd just be like, hey, call you. What are you doing? I'm just, didn't want to talk. And it's like, okay, I'm coming over, and the door's locked. Just gonna ring the bell until you open the door, and we're getting the fuck out of here. Like we're going to get up
Yeah.
and we're gonna go. And you know what? We might have a very uncomfortable walk through the park, a very like you definitely don't want to be here. You don't want to talk about it, but you're here. And at the end of it all, it's okay. Everyone processes things a little different, and that's okay. But it's important that you process it, and you don't have
Yes.
to do it alone. You do not. And
And don't rob the person that's willing to help you of their joy of being able to help you.
yeah,
At the same time, when you went over there and helped her, how did you feel? Like she walked through it, like you'd see her kind of coming out of that, the physical, the smile, the like you could see the pep in her step. Even through some of the hardest stuff, does it like you helping her? Didn't that make you feel good?
yeah, it
Makes you
does.
feel
Makes
good,
you feel
right?
good.
And
Yeah.
so that's why we need to be vulnerable with those people
I
that are
remember that
closest to
walk.
us.
Bro, I remember that walk. Man, we went to this park that we'd gone to 100 times, and I was like, "We'll just do a short walk, right? We'll just do like the half-mile trail." And then we took a left, and man, we were out there for like 2 fucking hours. She was so mad. She was so pissed. But she's like, "I can't. I'm fucking tired of walking." And I was like, I was just like, "Man, well, this is It started off good." But we got through, we got through it, and you just walked it out. And for
Yeah.
me, like, I would take that mindset, and I would go run. I can't treadmill. Yeah, I can't treadmill. It's too easy.
Oh
Treadmills
Lord,
is
no.
too easy to get off, right? But let
Hmm.
me tell you something. If you're feeling bad and you need a change, go find you a park and start walking. Because let me tell you something. When you are done walking, you are halfway back to your car, no matter how
Hmm.
long the walk is, right? If you
Yeah,
start running,
100%.
you're like, I'm gonna run this, I'm gonna jog this. All right, yeah, I'm gonna feel good. And you're like, fuck, I'm tired. And then you're like, where
Yes.
am I? Let me tell you something. There is no quit, and you will put that in your brain. There's no
Yes.
quit today. We're gonna, all right, you can quit. You know what? You can quit at any time you're on that trail. But the second you decide I'm done, you're only halfway done. It doesn't matter
Oh,
if you
100%.
walked 500 feet or 3 miles. You're halfway there. And
Hmm.
then that sets in. You're like, man, I just want to be at home. I just want to be here. Okay, well now I have to overcome it. When you get to your car, you'll feel better. You'll
That's
have
right.
achieved
That's
it.
right.
And
That's right.
it's powerful. Doing these little things is powerful, no matter what it is. You will feel better,
Mm.
1,000%. So everyone's got that tough motherfucker in them. And
That's right.
sometimes you just need someone to come over and go, hey man, where's it at? Let's find him. All right, that tough guy's hurting, but he's still tough, man. It's
Hmm.
okay. It's all
And
right.
he's going to be tougher when he comes out of that painful place he's in,
That's right.
or she comes out of that painful place that she's in.
That's
You,
right.
you just get tougher and you get perspective on life you didn't have before you went through the challenge.
Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And you get more respect for yourself and the people around you. And
Hmm.
I don't have a big circle of people in my life. I have a very small circle of people that I trust to tell anything to. And
Yep.
I laughed because I saw a clip on TikTok where a guy was like, anyone you don't know in life is just an NPC in real life. And I was like, that's pretty funny. He's like, look, he walks into a gas station and he's like, yeah, I'm just dropping off these newspapers, have a great Thursday morning. And he's like, today's Monday. I just walked in there and said, he's like, I didn't even leave anything in the gas station. It affected that person zero. Like, it's just a non-playable character. Stop judging people who have zero impact. You can do one of two things. You can make someone's life better, or you can just stop judging them. That's the solution. Don't make their life worse. Don't make it more difficult. It's not doing you any good, at all.
Stop letting people that have no impact on your life make you fearful of taking your next steps because you're worried about them judging you.
That's right. Because half those people have never even attempted something that you've tried to do.
That's right. That's right.
So, well, we can wrap this one up, man. This was a great chat. We hit 2-hour mark, man. I could talk forever, but I'm going to read the book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet because I just ridiculous week and a half, but I do plan on reading it and checking it out, and I've got a link in the description of the video, and definitely share it with everyone and reach out to Walt if you want to book him or talk to him or any of that stuff. His contact information is out there. You can get in touch with him, and look, man, we're here to talk to people. We're here to make a difference, and you're not alone. We're all tough motherfuckers, and we all got beat down at some point. And we all got back up. I look at this it's just an endless round of fighting. You don't win every round, but you get up and you just keep going.
And you learn from every round, though.
You do. You do learn
from every round.
You do learn. Maybe I won't get hit in the face so many times today. Right? Might not want to take so many shots to the face. And if I do, maybe I need to change my position a little bit. It's okay, but I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. I enjoyed it a lot. And, I take something away from every person I talk to, and I hope that you do too. And I'm going to send you some TMF gear as well so that you can rock some tough motherfucking gear over there. And, until next time, man, we'll see you guys later.